Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is a bit different in that we are going to combine the Roadster, Tesla Roadster, and the EV podcast in one. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner, and good morning.
And we have a lot of news items for you, leading with the UAW walkout that apparently is going on right now. We have very little details, but Jesse, can you tell us again which two plants have been affected in the last couple days?
Yeah, so yesterday there was the over 6,800 employees that are striking one of the largest Stellantis plants, and then today the walkout this morning was the GM plant, one of the largest, most profitable plants where they make the Chevy Tahoe and a bunch of other of their more popular vehicles.
My understanding on the UAW strike for Stellantis, it's up in Sterling Heights, Michigan, where they make all their Ram pickup trucks. The pickup truck is the most profitable segment for all three of the big automakers. And I believe, and I'm looking up right now, that the GM plant is their GM truck plant in Arlington, Texas.
Amazing. We will keep you informed as these developments continue to evolve, and would like to hear your comments, and definitely will entertain them as they come through. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. Tell us where you're from. Today we're going to be combining Tesla Roadster and EV type topics, so we'll bounce around a bit, and it'll depend on the audience participation as well. The Tesla Roadster group is not aware that we have switched this over to Tuesday, so it may be a little bit heavier on the EV side of things, but we do have some Roadster topics that we'll cover.
On the UAW strike, I've confirmed it is Arlington, and one of the more notable things for General Motors is that they have withdrawn their year-end financial guidance. From a financial standpoint, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So their stock price this morning was down about 15%.
15%. Okay.
Yeah, as of about an hour or so ago, and it was touching their 52-week lows.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have some definite opinions about this, and we'll withhold them or at least I'll withhold them for the moment.
Well, for now.
Yeah. So it looks like Lucid is imitating Tesla. And as Oscar Wilde pointed out, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. What we mean is Lucid launches its own referral program, just like Tesla did with referral codes, discounts, and rewards. Now, I don't know what the reward is. I mean, Tesla was giving away the second generation Tesla Roadster, $250,000 car, right?
Right. On Lucid, the reward for the buyer is 3 levels, depending on if you have the lowest, medium, or highest level of the Lucid Air sedan. And the reward would be either $750, $1,000, or $1,250 off. For the person who gives the referral, they get like a Lucid points, either towards swag or that can accumulate toward future dollars off on one of their cars.
Fascinating. Okay. Well, that should stimulate some sales, and at this point, it looks like it's important to do that. I saw a post a couple days ago, and it said, "Did you guys realize that Lucid is now a penny stock?" $4 and I think 30 cents at the time that comment was made. So,
yeah, I've always thought of penny stocks as under $1.
Under $1, yeah.
But at $4, they were down as low as like $4.13.
Yeah. Now remember, we have inflation now that is really eroding the value of the dollar. So
yes, it sure is. Well, that's possible. You know, on Lucid, I like that idea a lot.
It is. It makes sense. Yes.
I think it makes a lot of sense. In fact, personally, one of my biggest concerns with Lucid has been that it's been run by engineers and not by salespeople.
Yeah, interesting concern. Yes,
and it's not that engineers are inherently bad and salespeople are inherently good. It's that the engineers seem to be the ones who have all the power in Lucid, and they're doing all these wonderful engineering things, but they're not keeping their eyes on the very basic of business. You have to make money.
Yeah,
and so having something like this as a real sales program, I love it. We were talking pre-show. I was telling you before the show that Lucid board member Andrew Leveris has gone on record saying there's enough total available market share in the EV space for everybody as the internal combustion engines fade away. So I like the attitude that they have. Hopefully, this will help to spur sales. And remember, lest we all forget, not only the U.S. federal government, but governments all across the world are mandating a shift toward electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And in all of the stuff that has happened this year, that announcement seems to have really gotten lost. You know, the UK is 50% by 2035. Even, Europe is 50% by 2030. United States is 50% by 2035. That they're mandating that 1 out of every 2 cars sold be electric. We don't have enough production capacity for 1 out of every 2 cars sold to be electric right now. So there's a lot of room for growth.
And this follows on the heels of a slow quarter for Lucid.
It does. It was a very unpleasant surprise for the investors and market as a whole for Lucid to come out with their end of third quarter numbers and simply say, yeah, we did about what we did last quarter. 1,450 deliveries on 1,500 cars manufactured.
Now, Niels is giving us investment advice. He says, sounds like it's time to prepare some GM put options.
Niels, I think you're probably right, but that's not investment advice from us because we're not professional investors.
You know, years ago when GM went through their first round of bankruptcy, it had already become a penny stock, and I bought some playing with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I looked at my portfolio and there was no more GM stock. It had evaporated. It was gone.
Wow.
They had pulled it. Yeah. Instagram. BJ Motors Automotive says, can you change the configuration on the Intel MSU Model S? I don't know what you mean by changing the configuration, but we actually upgrade that to a much larger chip. And he's in the UK, by the way, it says. Yeah, so if you can give us a little more detail what you mean by changing the configuration, I would also suggest that if it's very technical, send that email to ev@gruber.com, and some of the technical experts at Gruber Motor Company will chime in and answer that for you.
Yeah, there's a good chance that we'll be able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, Joseph Duquette is joining us today from Warwick, Rhode Island. Thank you, Joseph, for joining us and for telling us where you're from. I encourage everybody to tell us where you're coming in from. His question, if we can get that scrolled back onto our screen, is what's the best way to recycle all the electric car batteries?
Well, recycling for car batteries actually is quite earth-friendly. Redwood material claims a 0% waste stream. And what essentially comes into a facility like that is in the business of recycling EV batteries is high-grade ore.
Yeah.
Much better than the mining operations where you have to throw out a bunch of rocks and mud and slurry and sludge and liquids and then transport it halfway around the world with diesel typically type vehicles.
Typically.
It is a very, it's a closed loop system basically, and it's just in time because the whole point of this EV conversion is to get us back to some planet saving initiatives.
Real quick, guys.
Yeah.
Just for our audience on Instagram, looks like we have between 9 and 12 people over there on Instagram today, which is good. We love having you guys there. If you want to see the background and the green screen images, you can go to our YouTube, Facebook, basically anywhere except Instagram. You can see the full show. And
thanks for reminding me. The image behind us on the green screen is actually another one of those AI-generated images where I asked for a newsroom in the Bauhaus style. And it put some cool psychedelic colors in there. So we were enjoying it, and we thought we would use or stay with that theme. We had one of these last week, actually, and they look fairly close, but it is different than the last one. Someone, a purist here, one of the technical guys pointed out, I don't think that light mount on the upper left-hand corner is possible. And I said, well, AI does have a way of bending the laws of physics.
That's right. I do remember that. And although this is a kind of an irreverent take that I have, to me, it reminds me of that 1970s style Burger King or McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because at the time, those colors of reds and oranges were very prominent. Their market research had said reds and oranges make people more hungry.
Oh, interesting.
And I think this is actually a very beautiful studio. But are you hungry?
You know what? I'm happy, and I'll tell you why. When I drove home the other night, I'm test driving a very orange roadster right
Uh-huh.
now, and my neighbor was walking the dog, and he stopped over, talked to me by the car, and he says, "I love this orange." He says, "I used to be a home caretaker for ill people,
Uh-huh.
and there was a very depressed woman that he was taking care of, and a friend of his, a psychologist, said, 'Paint her walls bright orange. She'll be happier.'" And he said, "We did it, and she was." He says, "Oranges
Wow.
makes people happy." So maybe that's what will go on
You know
with the
what? Maybe
studio as
that
well.
is what will go on.
Yeah.
The fun with psychology with colors.
So we've got a good question here with the from YouTube. EV Stop says, "I have a Model S 2015 with 90,000 kilometers on the odometer with free supercharging for life. Do you recommend to get a new Y and transfer supercharging? And how long a time would you expect a battery replacement?" From Canada, Vancouver. This is a good segue into one of our topics here, which is the
Mhm.
announcement from Tesla that they are going to allow lifetime supercharging transfers. And actually, Ray Johnson is going to chime in here shortly because he also texted us and said there may be an update to that from somebody at a service center that had updated him. But let me read you the basic program as described on the Tesla website at this point. They announced that current Tesla owners with active free supercharging are now eligible to transfer their supercharging to their new Tesla vehicle when they order a Model S, X, or Model Y. Customers, however, must take delivery of their new Model S, X, Y by December 31st of 2023. Then they had some eligibility requirements. They also said that the owners must notify Tesla of their intent to transfer supercharging, sign the relevant documents prior to taking delivery of their new vehicle, and the transferred supercharging will remain on their vehicle for as long as you own the vehicle. Now, the additional caveats for eligibility were: one, you are the legal and registered owner of a Tesla vehicle that currently has free supercharging at the time of delivery of your new vehicle. Two, you must take delivery by December 31st, 2023. Three, you have your existing VIN in order on the Tesla account. Four, your new vehicle on order does not have price adjustments. And I'm not quite sure how they're going to play that. They give you an additional
Yeah, I
discount.
don't.
Does that wipe out the free supercharging? It doesn't say.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then five, your existing VIN is not deemed a total loss or have a salvage title, which has been their rules all along. Ray had spoken to someone at a service center, and there might be a modification to this. And as soon as Ray chimes in, we'll certainly present that.
Yeah, to me, this is a really cool development. And I think it's great marketing again from Tesla.
Brilliant.
You know, what do you have in terms of superchargers or in terms of cars that have supercharging? If I recall correctly, from 2012 till the mid 2015 refresh is when free supercharging took place.
Mhm.
That's when Tesla was trying to grow the Model S market, and they were giving away charging so that people wouldn't have to worry about it. Tesla was only producing anywhere from 7 to about 15,000 cars a year during that time frame. So I'm thinking you're looking at an entire universe of people that's less than, say, 40 to 50,000 people of the hundreds of thousands of people who have Teslas now.
And of course, two things to consider as well. Although this increased their cost for supercharging somewhat because I think Tesla realized that these older vehicles will at some point in time be retired, scrapped, or whatever, and that would be a diminishing cost. Now what they've done is breathe a bit more life into it to extend it a bit further, but the same rules apply. These second generation vehicles aren't going to last forever.
Right.
And then finally, how many people are going to think of and take advantage of this program before December 35th or 31st? So I don't think it's going to be a huge liability for them to offer a program like this, but it'll certainly stimulate some more sales.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge liability either. And buying that loyalty in the automotive space, having a customer that's loyal enough to buy 2 or 3 generations of the same car usually ends up buying you a customer for life.
Yeah, precisely. Probably stay with these questions. Here we go. Ray Johnson did chime in. He says, free unlimited connectivity is not transferable. The owner is likely to lose free unlimited connectivity on both old and new cars.
Connectivity, what is that the same as supercharging, I'm assuming?
I'm assuming, yes.
No, isn't connectivity different? I think free connectivity is like internet. Like your car is connected to Starlink or whatever internet is nearby. If you're just driving.
So it's like a separate media package.
I believe so. Yeah.
We can do some research on that back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. YouTube, EV Stop, question. I have a Model S 2015. Oh, that's the same one. Sorry. TikTok, Van Goatwagen is joining us. What's new, Gruber team? Well, we've got a change in podcast schedules starting this week. Yesterday was our COM podcast. Today is going to be our only weekly EV podcast, combining both the EV and the Roadster podcast. And then Wednesday is going to be our AI podcast. And Friday is the Gruber Power Services team, which is a different presenters behind the table here.
Van Goat, have you been on away for a while? Because I'm not sure if he knows that we have Cass on the team now.
Oh yeah,
as well as of course having Richard and Aaron on the team, and Jesse, who is our fixture.
Mm-hmm. Well, in case you didn't, there are 4 people back there behind the table now.
Speaking of that, I think Cass has some info for you guys.
I
Go
do.
for it.
For the connectivity packages, okay, so everybody comes with the standard, right, which is just navigation. But you can pay for premium, which is navigation, live traffic visualization, Sentry mode or the live camera, satellite view maps, video streaming, karaoke.
Karaoke, yeah.
But it's spelled with like car.
Karaoke.
It was intentional. I thought you were mispronouncing it, Cass.
Boo, boo.
Music streaming and internet browser.
So it sounds like you would lose all that stuff if you transfer, because they probably got that free for life while they got the other stuff, the supercharging free for life.
So another caveat that is not included in this list of 5.
Okay, and then the free connectivity, that makes sense. So that's the free online. All the online stuff that comes through your MCU that they're talking about. Okay.
Sure. But for those of you that are doing gig work or taxi work, that free supercharging is a definite benefit. So that would be, that's going to be a.
And Ray, thank you for the clarification. That is valuable information for everybody to have. Harry Mann on YouTube says Honda is coming up with a hydrogen fuel cell. Is that true?
I have a couple images of that I can bring up real quick.
Sure. Okay.
So it looks like they're unveiling a truck, like a semi-truck in coordination with Isuzu, and then they also have CRVs that are hydrogen that are being tested currently in Japan. It looks like they are still putting money into this hydrogen thing.
All I can say is maybe they know something we don't. It's not the first time.
Yeah. The good thing is a fuel cell versus hydrogen combustion, 2 very different technologies. That is going to be hydrogen used to essentially power a battery and an electric motor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am seeing something here that Honda is planning on putting a CRV fuel cell out by 2024. My big question, of course, is my goodness, we don't have any hydrogen infrastructure. It's the same argument that people have had for EVs for years.
Yeah.
Where are you ever going to fuel up?
Maybe Japan.
Yeah, maybe.
TikTok. Van Goatwagen asks, has Amazon helped or hurt Rivian? We actually spoke about that in the last podcast. And the exclusivity arrangement, I think, was troubling for Rivian, who is trying to build their customer base.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 100,000 vehicles ordered by Amazon. And I think the latest is that exclusivity requirement has been lifted. Is that right?
No, I don't think it's been lifted yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Rivian went to the table to negotiate with Amazon to try to get it lifted, and Amazon's counter was, "Yeah, maybe we don't really need 100,000 vehicles
Oh,
after
that's
all."
right. Yeah, yeah.
And so but I do think that the net of this is that Amazon has greatly helped Rivian because Rivian is able to tout all of the delivery vans that they've been able to produce. And part of that has given Rivian the reputation of being one of the startup EVs that's actually making production in the plant that they're working on, unlike, say, Lucid that's having production troubles, it seems like.
Yeah. YouTube Highlander's joining us. Hi, gang. Welcome, Highlander.
Hi, Highlander.
TikTok, Van Goatwagen. Aren't you glad you have that background? Oh, that's a good one.
Boo.
Oh, Richard, he's a man after your own heart.
You know, I'm an old guy, but we used to do that in high school. You know, good one. Instagram collisions, spelled K-O-L. Well, you can see it, I'm sure. He says, how do you rate the technology of dry ice blasting as application for EV cleaning? Sandy Monroe swears by it. Says that when we get one of those structural, unrepairable battery packs, that their best solution to remove the pink poly or whatever it's called was dry ice blasting. They even tried a chemical that he said was had warnings all over it. It was highly carcinogenic, and they swear by the dry ice blasting. We don't use it here yet because we haven't seen any of those structural battery packs. And when we want gentle blasting, we use soda, baking soda, the stuff you guys make cookies with. So yeah, it's the jury's out as far as we're concerned. We have not tried it yet.
My understanding, though, is that dry ice is very much like baking soda, just that, since it's frozen carbon dioxide, as it blasts and heats up, it simply evaporates into the atmosphere.
Yeah, good point. But doesn't that put a hole in the ozone layer?
Well, you got
to have some compromises.
You got to have some compromises somewhere.
Right.
No, I think what they do, what's advertised is that they'll pull that carbon dioxide out of the air, compress it, freeze it, and then as it thaws, it goes back into the air, so it's carbon neutral.
Okay, so it's a closed loop.
Yeah.
TikTok, false hopes. He gives us, what is that emoji? That emoji, is that hands clapping? Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
On YouTube, Durs Pence, P-E-N-C, asks us, I have a 2016 Model S with free supercharging. If I purchase a new Model Y and keep my Model S, do I only keep the free charging on one of the vehicles?
You know, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked that. In this eligibility requirement, it does not say anywhere that you'll be able to now have two vehicles that have free supercharging.
That's correct. It does talk about transferring the supercharging. Yeah. So absent any other information, I think I'm with you, Pete. I would say probably not. You probably get it on one vehicle only.
Yep. YouTube, Nalvers53, welcome back. He says the EV infrastructure, mostly the public charging networks, seems fairly robust now. I'm not sure why many of my coworkers fear getting into an EV. Well, it's, fear is an irrational emotion, and it doesn't always keep up with the times.
It doesn't. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about networks and chargers and stuff, and I had seen some research that had gone in Australia where there's much less infrastructure and quite a bit fewer people. The way the research went is people who were afraid of their range anxiety, basically, and were put into EVs. Within 3 months, they were driving the same as they had always driven. Their driving habits that started when they first got the EV to change, went back to normal, drove just as many miles, just as many places, and their fear of not being able to charge almost completely vanished.
So range anxiety finally subsided.
Yeah, the range anxiety subsided. It has to do with the people who are not EV drivers being afraid of what they don't know.
Yeah, and that's a fairly common occurrence. Van Goatwagen welcomes Cass. Thank you. Ray Johnson's chiming in again. He says, connectivity is not free supercharging. Your crew is correct. Connectivity is real-time Google Maps, streaming, etc. Current cost is $9.99 a month or $100 per month. Well,
Yes.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. And 91 Kit on YouTube says, supercharging transfers but free unlimited connectivity does not.
Okay, so further clarification.
Yes.
Instagram, FNE_mobile asks, is Tesla the best e-car? Kind of depends, I guess, on your viewpoint.
It kind of does. I mean, if you're driving a Lucid, you're probably going to say Lucid's superior. If you're driving, for those people that drive Volvos, they might say the Volvo is superior. If you're driving the Kia, they might say the Kia is superior.
We can say Tesla is most mature, I think.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of full self-driving and some of the other features.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, the most likely to survive anything on this planet.
I think so. I really like the Tesla Model S that I drive. I feel like it is more refined than some of the other EVs that are out there. I happen to like the build quality of the Volvo XC40 that I have better than my Tesla. That goes to the fact that Volvo has been building cars for 100 plus years, and their build quality, I think, as a result, is more refined and better in that sense. But Tesla, the overall Tesla experience is one I wouldn't want to trade.
Hey guys, it's time for a picture. If we can throw up the CT ladder rack. And, you know, there has been a lot of discussion about the Cybertruck. And is it really a work truck? Is it something that you can take on a construction site? Can you put a bunch of conduit up there? Can you put a ladder up there? You know, how are you going to carry that wheelbarrow if you're in a concrete business? Well, this rack arrangement won't allow you to carry a wheelbarrow, but it'll certainly allow you to carry some pipe and maybe some ladders. The real trucks, ooh, did I say that? Have sockets or U-shaped type arrangements on the sides. And that's typically where you can put your long pipe. And then you have a ladder rack going across the bed of the truck, which is where typically you would find, you know, your ladders and, like I was mentioning, wheelbarrows, you know, turned front down if you're in the concrete business. This at least lets you go to Home Depot and maybe get some 2x4s and, you know, maybe some 4x8 sheets of plywood, because it's certainly going to be wide enough, I think.
Well, it would be. I have some concerns about it, though. There is an upward slope from back to front on that. And if I am putting a 4x8 sheet of plywood down, there's going to be a lot of wind coming up underneath that sheet of plywood, trying to force it up off of that ladder rack.
So you've made an airplane wing is basically what you're saying.
Very much.
Okay.
Very much. And I don't know how to do the math here, but at an upward angle like that, you can imagine that the upward force is going to be at a minimum several hundred pounds, if not a few thousand pounds, if you're got a 4x8 sheet of plywood stuck up there. I mean, you just look at the size of some of the wings that go on backs of cars to try to force them down. They're, you know, these 8 inches, 12 inches, well, 12 would be really big, and the width of a car, and they say that they can put a couple thousand pounds of downforce because they're a wing in the opposite direction.
Right. So staying with the Cybertruck for a moment, it turns out that the Tesla Cybertruck now will be equipped with an 800-volt architecture when it begins deliveries November 30th. So we have two things here. A shift in the voltage, the battery voltage, main battery, and we've got a release date, November 30th, finally.
Finally.
Yep. And this is this announcement is fresh from the company's earnings call earlier this week, actually last week. For EV newbies, they say, the 800-volt architecture may not be much of a head turner. But for those of you that have been following the industry, 800-volt architecture is the way of the future for EVs, especially as more electric cars are on the road and charging times continue to be a concern. The higher the voltage, the quicker the charging time. And also, to some, a heavier all-electric car becoming more available throughout the various automakers. So on Wednesday, Tesla confirmed what is believed to be a change to the 800-volt architecture, which has already been used in Europe, actually.
Right.
So, what are the strengths of an 800 volt architecture? Well, it comes down to charging times, faster, efficiency, margins. Now, there's a big one. It's going to cost less for a manufacturer to make an 800 volt pack, and weight savings. These are all things that are important to the manufacturers and for the consumers, because if there's a cost reduction, that usually gets passed on to the consumer. So, from a macro standpoint, the Tesla financials are still strong, but Elon was not shy about warning investors during the earnings call about the upcoming economic headwinds that are headed our way. And they feel that because it is a market-wide issue, as Tesla plans to launch the Cybertruck, interest rates are high currently, which discourages consumers who want to finance anything. Additionally, Elon confirmed that it may take 18 months for the Cybertruck to be positive cash flow to the Tesla financials. The 800 volt architecture will also improve margins for a number of reasons. One is, we get down to this article, there will be less copper throughout the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, 400 volts is at 800 volts, it's half the amount of amperage. And amperage is the amount of power that is pumped through breakers, contactors, fuses, and all of the connecting wires. So there would be less weight, less copper, and that's partly what is responsible for the cost savings. And then finally, improved performance and range. The weight classifications they talk about with the Cybertruck, and this is according to the NHTSA. It revealed that there were two weight classifications for this vehicle. One is the vehicle's gross weight, and there are two classes, G, which would be between 8,000 and 9,000 pounds, and H, which is between 9,000 and 10,000 pounds.
That tells me that these are very heavy vehicles, even if they're not large.
Mm-hmm.
800 volts is going to help that. I remember people who are really good at electronics or electricity talking to me about voltage and amperage, where they say amperage is like where voltage and amperage are like a garden hose. Voltage is water pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Amperage is the size of the hose.
Right.
And it's a rough equivalent to what your wire is. If you have higher amps, you have to have a bigger hose
Mm-hmm.
in order to hold those higher amps. If you have higher voltage, you can keep that hose smaller or that wire smaller. And there are a lot of advantages to having smaller wire, especially when you're dealing with high levels of electricity.
Which is one of the reasons that they can pump electricity across a state with a wire that's about the size of a garden hose, and it has 1,000,000 volts.
Right, exactly. So, I'm completely unsurprised by this.
Mhm.
We've seen and have reported here on this podcast how the Tesla Level 4 chargers were being rolled out in Europe earlier this spring and summer, and that those Level 4 chargers looked like they had 800 volt capabilities. So that kind of makes this announcement anticlimactic a little bit, because if not for the Cybertruck, what would the necessity of this 800 volt charging architecture be?
Mhm.
We even saw, again, our regular contributor, I think it was Ray Johnson, sent us a note separately that he had seen one of the version 4 chargers come
It's
up.
picture time, Jesse. If you can pop up Ray with a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
What I was amazed with was not the relationship of scale to Ray and the Cybertruck, but to his Model S. I mean,
Wow.
that Cybertruck is substantially bigger.
That is quite a bit bigger. And those black chargers are the version 4 superchargers up near Reno in Sparks, Nevada.
They are indeed, yes. Yep. So again, Tesla is not the first company to go with the 800 volt architecture. The Porsche Taycan, for example, had 800 volt a pack in 2018 even,
Mm-hmm.
when Porsche first unveiled the specs for its EV. And the version 4 superchargers from Tesla with 350 kW output is an 800 volt charging method.
I believe Hyundai / Kia cars already have 800 volts in them. I don't remember if Volvo has it yet. If not, they will be within the next model year or two. And of course, Lucid, we've already mentioned, they didn't want to go to the next standard because at the time Tesla had not announced 800 volts, and their cars all charge with 800 volts. A couple more things on. I think we have a lot of questions actually. YouTube 91 kit. It also sounds like once free supercharging transfers, it only transfers to the current owner. If you sell that Tesla, free supercharging doesn't transfer like it originally did.
Interesting. Okay.
I kind of picked that up in the wording when I read through the announcement, and I have that same question. It kind of does sound like that.
EV Stop says from YouTube, I doubt the old car will lose the free premium connectivity. The car should lose just supercharging. However, not being able to transfer the supercharging to a new owner's sucks. Okay.
Yes. Another question that EV Stop has, and this is a follow-up to his earlier question. He says, you guys actually didn't say what you would recommend. If you remember, he had the Model S with 90,000 kilometers on it. So should I get a new car or keep the Model S? Do you think the Model S would have 10 more years of battery life before replacement is required?
You know, my personal view on that, having driven my cars many years typically, and I wasn't one of those people that would immediately upgrade and trade it in and, any of that. Properly maintained and a clear path toward a reduction in the future maintenance like we're expecting with EVs. These battery costs aren't always going to be $22,000 for a replacement main battery pack.
Right.
It almost seems like it would be prudent to, if you like your car and you've taken good care of it, hang on to it. Be prepared to do a battery swap at one point in time, but or many points in time, depending how long you keep it, and expect those costs to continue to come down. In fact, one of the next topics we have here is there is a new U.S. manufacturer that is making large solid-state batteries. It's a company called Factorial. And they are, see if I get the rest of this here. They're in a joint venture agreement with Hyundai and Mercedes-Benz and Stellantis. This is a company that is working on a more cost-effective way of building solid-state batteries for electric vehicles, meaning instead of a liquid electrolyte, it has a solid electrolyte or close to it. And they are opening a new facility in the Boston suburb of Methuen, Massachusetts. With the backing of Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, and Hyundai, this American company has developed a proprietary quasi-solid electrolyte dubbed Factorial Electrolyte System Technology, or FEST for short. Thank you. I don't want to say that too many times. Which can be integrated into existing lithium-ion battery manufactured equipment, lowering production cost. We all knew that eventually there will be replacement batteries made by not just the OEMs that made the batteries, but because of the large population of cars out there, the aftermarket was going to jump in and begin to develop product.
Absolutely.
So this startup's new facility in Methuen, Massachusetts will initially house a cathode coating line with plans of expanding the location so that it can accommodate the largest solid-state battery assembly line in the U.S. They claim that they will have an annual capacity of 200 megawatt hours, and the timeline for this expansion has not yet been published. And as they go on to say here, that the automakers' demand for American-made batteries is high to produce electric or hybrid vehicles that qualify for incentives. So anyway, this is a production facility that should be online soon. It will have a higher capacity than your normal liquid-based lithium-ion battery packs. In fact, the percentage they throw out is, it's later on in the article here, It will be 30% greater capacity with a goal of eventually making it 50% larger capacity. Now, that translates into either additional range if you keep the same weight, or less weight with the same range and less cost. So they're probably going to give customers the option to select something here that is more important to them. But the best part with this new battery technology is that the risk of catching on fire has been virtually eliminated. And it will, again, travel a longer distance if you get the same weight battery with the higher capacity.
You know, I really like this particular company and what it represents. There's a lot of that I like beyond just the solid state and the 30%. If Jesse can pull up one of our pictures, it's called Solid State EVs Cell, and it's a WebP picture, by the way, Jesse. That is a really good picture of the factorial cell that they have.
It looks like a pouch battery, does it
It
not?
does. It does. And it looks like it's a battery that could fit very easily into a Model S module.
Mm-hmm.
Or like most manufacturers, a flatter module type battery, because most manufacturers have their batteries across the bottom of the vehicle like the Model S, not like the Roadster where it's in more of an upright pack.
I think you're onto something there, because if you look at the scale of the hands holding that pouch battery, that looks like to be about 5 inches or so, which may be sufficient to actually stack these inside a Tesla Model S battery tub or
Yes.
Model X.
And the width looks like it could be around that same 16 inches that a Model S module would
the
be as
module.
well.
Yeah.
So I like that it's a U.S. based manufacturer. I like the weight factor. You know, this is supposed to be both denser, energy dense wise, and a little bit lighter than the current lithium ion batteries. The one thing, and I saw this in the comments to that article, and I was reviewing it this morning, 200 megawatts worth of capacity, only about 2,000 100-kilowatt batteries per year. That's not very many batteries per year to start with. But there is further, you know, there's other wording in the article talking about this is an early production phase. And they're going to, if this is successful, ramp up into mass production within the next couple of years.
And as the article points out, this isn't the only American startup that is working on a mode energy dense battery. They mentioned QuantumScape, Nissan, and Toyota are some of the names that are preparing for something similar.
What happens, I wonder, when, and I don't think this is an if anymore, your ICE vehicle average weight becomes the same as your electric vehicle average weight? What does that do to EVs?
To adoption.
To adoption.
Well, it should most likely reduce the road taxes that will eventually be levied on EVs. Because remember, the argument there is it's the weight of the vehicle that you know, is wearing the asphalt and the roads and creating potholes. But yeah, interesting concept.
Hey guys, we are very, very far behind on the questions. Because we combine the shows, we have a lot more viewers and a lot more engagement coming in.
Well, let's continue with those questions then.
YouTube, Richard Flenke, welcome, Richard. By 2027 or 2028, HA, don't know what that means unless it's a typo.
He's saying
Unless he's just saying ha.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry. He says Toyota's solid-state battery boasts 745 miles on a 10-minute charge.
That is true, Richard. However, if you read through the fine print of what Toyota has, that battery with that 10-minute charge is not going to be out until at least 2028.
Okay. PYGKLB on YouTube says, according to a recent Connecting the Dots video, the Japanese Auto Manufacturers Associations and MITI put their weight behind fuel cells, in part to avoid dependence on China for battery materials.
Okay, that makes sense. That political bent makes a lot of sense to me. On YouTube, Dublin Dave says, the transfer of free supercharging is if you trade your car to Tesla and they give about $10,000 less for your car than you would get on the open market. That $10K will buy a lot of supercharging.
Interesting.
Interesting take.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are going to be more caveats listed on this program as questions like this continue to be generated. Instagram, FNE_mobile, will e-mobility prevail worldwide? Oh, without a doubt. would be my
I'm sure it
opinion.
will.
Yeah. Well, for no other reason than as ice begins to recede into oblivion, they're not going to be making that type of product anymore. And if they do, it'll be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, one of the articles that didn't make our list for this morning was I just saw the title too more than anything. The most popular car right now, or one of the most popular cars in Japan, is an electric vehicle. It's made by Nissan. It's the size, roughly the size of a Mini Cooper or a little bit less, like the Fiat 500 or something like that. And it's only about $13,000.
Amazing.
It's a city dweller type vehicle, and super popular.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's happening all over the world right now.
YouTube Highlander, he says, I was at Sandy's yesterday. It's all decked out with skeletons, spider webs. You even got a skeleton in there. Buggy sits up in the front lobby, LOL. Yeah, Sandy's team typically does the holidays well. I've noticed that with their videos.
That's pretty cool. I'd love to see that.
Although we're doing a pumpkin carving in GPS. I think Eileen has been staging that.
Yeah, I've heard that that's going to be coming up. That should be a lot of fun.
YouTube Lightning Rod, hello from Thunder Bay. Have you been following the Edison Motors phenomenon? Well, we saw the latest video where Sandy went up to visit with you guys, but I'm unfamiliar on any advancements that they've made. Enlighten us.
Yeah.
YouTube, EV Stop. Tesla does not require you to trade in. For your information, you can keep the old Tesla or sell it independent, of course, without free supercharging.
Right. So, and my initial impression on the wording of the Tesla announcement is only that you have to be the registered owner and be able to have both the current car and the new car on the app at the same time. Not that you've taken delivery of both cars, but that you can prove through the Tesla app that you're going to have that you have ownership of the old car and will be taking ownership of the new.
Gentlemen, did we do Bion Danish's Genome Institute's comment there at the top?
I don't think we have yet. Neil said dry ice is preferable as it does not leave residue behind. That's kind of what I was telling you earlier.
Yeah.
Soda residue can corrode badly. It gets in everywhere and everywhere in the shop too.
I've noticed that. I come in on the weekends often, Nils, and I will do some soda blasting because it's such a cool way to clean things up. And when I'm done, there's white powder all over the ground that I usually blow away. And one day I was soda blasting during the week, actually. Didn't realize that I was breathing this stuff. I wasn't wearing a mask. And I had these white ringlets around my nostrils. And then I went and gave a tour. And they must have thought that I was a coke addict. No one did, but no one pointed it out.
No one said anything.
Yeah, they were pretty cool about it,
Oh,
they were
funny.
like, that's how he moves so fast at his age. Yeah, that's the secret spice to life.
Yep, another secret revealed. YouTube Lightning Rod says Tesla by 1,000,000 miles. All right, that's the first question. Which kind of EV do you prefer?
Yes. Ray Johnson on YouTube, he says, oops, I meant not $100 a month for the connectivity pack. He said $100 a year.
Okay, thank you, Ray. By the way, did you like that picture that we posted of you by that Cybertruck?
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah. YouTube, Andrew Barnes, who's doing the best classic EV conversions kit? You know what? I've been waiting for that to surface. And there are small companies that are kind of dabbling with it. But no one that has really come out, that I'm aware of at least, that makes a great conversion kit that's versatile, plug and play, and for different platforms. Like they used to do with the crate engines back in the day. You had your Mopars, you had your Fords, and very specific vehicle conversion kits that you could buy as well.
At some point, someone is going to come out with a battery for the Model S or Model Y or Model 3 or one of these other EVs, and they're going to be a third party.
Speaking of that, that's one of our topics with the Roadster portion,
That's
which
right.
we're going to switch over here shortly. Our German counterpart, Marco Nolte, actually claims that he's got a Tesla Roadster battery that works.
Yeah, so we'll get to that, and let's keep on with these questions. Lightning rod, space Caminos can fly.
That was in reference to the
yeah.
Cybertrucks about 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Yes.
the wood causing uplift.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
right, yeah.
Yes.
YouTube, Shiver Plumbing, maybe the contractor's truck, but not a work truck. Otherwise, it's very cool. Yeah, the GC's probably going to ride around in air-conditioned comfort in a Cybertruck.
Yeah. Nulver53 on YouTube says, silly question, but why are all the Cybertrucks we've seen on the roads all in that plain stainless steel? There's no other colors. There's no red or blue or black. Or how about that bright AI orange?
Well, that's, of course, by design. It's the same as the DeLorean. It won't have paint, although a lot of people, I think, are going to end up wrapping their Cybertrucks.
I think so, too. I still think one of the more entertaining Cybertruck wraps I've seen was when the Cybertruck was wrapped as a Ford F-150.
So Ramon chimes in about the Cybertruck. He says construction people will love the tonneau cover. They can safely store their stuff in the back.
Yes.
YouTube lightning rod. We need Bank X. Would this be an Elon version of a second generation of PayPal? Or
Bank X at one point in time was PayPal a long time ago.
Okay.
The PayPal, when it was very first was founded by Elon, he called it X. And then he changed it to PayPal
Right.
when he partnered with eBay.
And I should have known. I just read about that story too. Yeah. But yeah, X has been a very prominent character in Elon's life, it appears. Ramon says, what do you guys think about the Cybertruck Lander? It looks great for camping. Yeah, I think I saw a picture of it. Have you
Not
guys?
familiar with that?
Yeah, it's like a Cybertruck converted camper. They're
Interesting.
Facebook, James Gardner says, am I correct that EVs are DC? Well, the DC portion of an electric vehicle is the storage. We have not yet, with the current laws of physics, figured out a way to store AC. So all power storage or storage of electricity at this point is direct current, DC. It would be nice if it was AC because it eventually ends up needing to be converted to AC to drive a three-phase AC induction motor, which is the drive motor in an EV. But for now, at least, all storage is DC.
You're talking about this, Pete?
Yeah, there you go.
It is. There it is.
$24,000 camper. Looks like it's got solar panels as well.
That is the Cyberlander. Yep. It's a very cool option. It looks very intriguing.
Yeah. Fascinating. Makes me want to go camping. YouTube, Ramon Hurd. Tesla was talking about changing from 12 volt to 48. I wonder if the Cybertruck will be 48. Actually, I think that is the case, Ramon. We've had that in some of our previous podcasts. And it's their first foray into a 48 volt, low voltage type architecture in their cars.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of advantages there as well. It'll be a strange looking battery, of course, or it'll be a custom manufactured battery initially. But again, reduced wire sizes and lower costs for certain items that are in that low voltage string.
I wonder if for compatibility purposes, they end up with 4 12-volt batteries that are fairly small and then put into series.
And then to tap for any 12-volt devices, door locks or whatever that they can't easily migrate, they simply feed it off of one of the 12-volt batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a possibility, sure. Instagram, FNE_mobile. Gruber Motors is the best technology site available for Tesla. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the great information, he says, with 3 thumbs up.
TikTok, Jose Hernandez, he said, yes, but nobody has a charging infrastructure in place.
Not yet, yes.
And then he goes on to say, I was told that free supercharging was with the owner when I purchased my 2017 Model S.
Yes.
I can refute that at least somewhat because we've seen cars, Model S's, where we've facilitated sales between 2 different parties, and the supercharging for the
Transfers with the vehicle.
yeah, the supercharging is transferred with the vehicle from the old owner to the new owner, and we've seen cases where both the old and new owners are using the Tesla app, and they continue to keep that supercharging.
Yeah. Instagram, Dawood, bunch of numbers. He says, hello there. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. YouTube Highlander, please repeat your email address. I will send the pictures now. EV for electric vehicle at Gruber.com.
YouTube, Richard Flunky says, as of today, 7 Cybertruck reservations have been auctioned off on eBay from $3,700 to $5,500, a coming trend. Will anyone sell theirs? We've heard anecdotally that if Tesla finds out that you sold your reservation, you lose it.
Oh, really? Okay, so they're
They don't
seriously
like
discouraging
it. They
that,
don't
yeah.
like it at all. Yet at the same time, what's to say that somebody draws up a contract separate from the reservation and says, when I take delivery of this car, it's yours.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, you're going to be the one who has to pay Tesla, that has to finance it, et cetera, et cetera.
My first thought there was Sandy Munro is definitely in line for that and may have already bought one of those. But
I wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised.
And of course, in his case, they're going to do a tear down and take it apart, so it doesn't really matter how Tesla feels about it.
Yeah, exactly.
YouTube, Ray Johnson says, well, my wife loved the picture of me in the Cybertruck, and that's most important. I agree, Ray.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ka Panda says, nice job, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So staying with the Cybertruck for a moment here, it made its public debut in 2019 when Franz von Holzhausen embarrassingly shattered the truck's supposedly indestructible armor glass. But Elon at that point said that the car, or the Cybertruck, would be on the road by 2021 with a base price as little as $39,900. Well, Tesla has not yet announced what the real cost is going to be, but they're preparing us that it's not going to be $39,900 at this point. In fact, one of the analysts claims the price will be far higher than the first projection. And Elon, not one to be politically correct all the time, said during the earnings call, we dug our grave with the Cybertruck. Of course, it's a broad statement and it could send shivers through investors, but they're used to, I think, Elon making statements like this without qualifying precisely what it was, other than there are some real manufacturing challenges with a vehicle like this.
Yeah. And, you know, my take is, in my opinion, completely, I interpret Elon's statement less as this is going to kill us as a company, because it's not, and more as when you get nearly 2 million reservations for a product that you haven't even sold yet,
Right.
You've got to commit to moving forward no matter what, no matter how painful it is. People have used their dollars to vote and say, I love this idea. And so yes, in that sense, you could say Elon is correct. They dug their own grave. 2 million people have said, I want this, and I'm going to pay you $100 to put my name in the line.
So why is Tesla, why are they pushing into pickup trucks was the question. Well, it turns out that pickup trucks are the auto market's largest and most profitable segment. Now, it's certainly not, Tesla's certainly not a pioneer in the electric truck space. Ford, which has dominated the pickup truck market for decades, which is with its F-150, beat Tesla to market with its battery-powered F-150 Lightning. Very successful vehicle. And it was aimed at both pickup fans and commercial customers, starting at $50,000 basically, shy $5. Right? GM is also rolling out with its 52,000 electric Chevy Silverado, and Stellantis is preparing to sell the $58,000 Ram 1500 REV. Promises to go 500 miles of range. Now, this is, of course, all predicated on whether this skirmish with the UAW ends up resolving and coming out favorably.
It does. You know, I see the headlines in the news and hear that Chevrolet is slowing down their production. They've delayed the Silverado by a year. Ford is slowing down their production of the 150. They've pulled back one of their shifts. It seems like, we've talked about it in the past. The elephant in the room is not Ford and Stellantis and GM, it's Tesla. Both sides are making these oblique references to Tesla. Either the three traditional automakers saying, I'm going to die if I don't compete with Tesla, or the UAW saying, we're doing this so that we can get Tesla next because we need our people to be paid enough to be competitive with Tesla. There's so much going on. I still think that the EV side of this is where the biggest gains or losses are going to be felt over the next 3 years.
This happened once before. In fact, Sandy Munro did a good segment on his latest video on this whole UAW strike. Eventually, public opinion is going to turn against the UAW in a big way. It happened in the last century.
Well, and I think it's starting to a little bit now. I'm starting to see and even read the articles in the regular press saying, has Sean Fine gone too far?
Mm-hmm.
The automakers have put out offers that are better than they have put out in a couple of decades for the UAW. And Sean Fine says, yeah, but it's still not good enough. Mm-hmm. And public sentiment is definitely starting to turn against him already.
And it should, because eventually the public is going to have to bail out these companies before they die.
Oh, absolutely. I like what Jesse had said. I think it was just in our Thursday podcast. The SAG-AFTRA actors got most of their demands from the streaming services, and then Netflix the very next week after signing the contract upped their subscription cost by 27%. Netflix isn't going to see anything bad about this. It's been passed right on to the end customers.
And it's what manufacturers have to do. When their costs go up, we have to pass that on to our customers. There is no other way to survive.
Yeah, so the customers are going to end up losing out on this.
A few more questions here. Instagram Mobile, FNE Mobile, you are the best. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Ramon Hurt, I hope I don't have to pay more than $65K for my dual motor Cybertruck. That's a good point. At this point, it's a huge unknown.
Yeah. You think they might do that intentionally? They might price it to a point to, number one, cover how difficult the manufacturing is, but also to maybe curtail some of those 2 million reservations?
Well, they would have to. I think it's inevitable. Unless Tesla wants to be very generous and sell something again under cost. Remember the Roadster days? I can't imagine that this late in the game they're going to be able to, first of all, unwittingly do that because they're fully aware. They're going into this with both eyes wide open. Whereas with the Roadster, for some time, that wasn't readily apparent.
And I think that's a common tactic amongst manufacturers. If you find that you think you're going to have way more demand for something than what you initially anticipated, you're going to raise prices. I mean, Ford did that with the Lightning. Mm-hmm. They announced that they would make 50,000 trucks, and the next thing you know, Ford has 250,000 reservations for trucks, and they cut it off way earlier than they thought they were going to need to. So what they do, they raise the prices of their trucks by 25 or 30%.
And their dealers willingly accommodated that increase, did they not?
Not only that, they added another $20,000 to the price of the trucks. If you wanted a Ford Lightning early on, you were going to be paying between $80,000 and $100,000 for their mid-range model.
Yeah. Instagram, MajDJ67. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Instagram, FNE Mobile. Are there any differences in American, German, and Chinese Tesla production? Yes.
Yes, there are some.
Shanghai, China, Tesla has been outperforming the majority of the other Tesla operations. And I think it's fundamentally a work ethic issue. Bold statement. And I'm going to wait for some responses
as well, actually. I hear that, obviously Shanghai is producing almost 1 million vehicles a year. Germany is producing nearly 500,000 vehicles a year. Here in the U.S., we were 350,000 per year rate at the Gigafactory in Texas. Mm-hmm. I I have not heard of any quality issues between the Model Ys, depending on where they're produced. That's something that I don't think is an issue.
You know, speaking of that, Tesla hits 1 million vehicle milestone across Europe was the headline. They have delivered 1 million vehicles to customers across Europe, and that was just last week.
That's what a mind-boggling number.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Europe, of course, they have more population in the Union than we have here in the United States, but still, that's Tesla put out Giga Berlin many, many years after the U.S. factories were put out there. So, congrats to Tesla.
Yeah, definitely. Niels, I'm reading your comment here. YouTube must have comment filters that work in unknown ways because you read some that I can't see, and I posted one that you can't see. Okay, maybe it's a web address in it. I'm not sure, guys. Is there any restriction with YouTube content in our questions being posted, and will they actually block some?
So if you're trying to post a link, then yes, that will be blocked because we haven't vetted the link, but you can post pretty much anything else. The reason why you might not be seeing some of the comments that we read is because we're reading the comments from 8 different platforms.
Okay.
So there's comments coming in on all different platforms that are not just on that one main YouTube channel.
Right.
So in other words, Jesse, you're saying that even we don't know how our filters work.
Right. Yeah, basically.
Pretty much.
Instagram, Sura AM2 says, I love Tesla. Well, yep, a lot of us do. Thank you for joining us.
There is a little bit of an addition to Niels' comment. He said, here's a third try. Iontra claims their software can charge existing batteries between 2 and 6 times faster, or they can prolong lifespan and extend range, but they don't tell how it works. If true, perhaps could it help the Roadsters?
Amazing. Well, you know, a lot of the Roadsters still have legacy battery packs from 2008, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
If there's a way to prolong lifespan and extend range, it would probably lessen the blow of an increase from a $30,000 battery pack to $40,000 just October 2nd.
Also, real quick for Niels or anybody else that wants to send us a link, you can send that to the email we mentioned earlier, ev@gruber.com. We'll be able to open those links and test them out, and then we'll pull them up on our other setup here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Instagram, Sura AM2 says, I love Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ramon Hurt on YouTube, if you guys can scroll that question, it says, I wonder if Tesla will unveil the Model 3 refresh during the Cybertruck delivery event.
Don't know.
That's a good question, Ramon.
YouTube, Ramon Hurt, maybe the Model 3 Ludicrous. There you go. Now that would be a
that
nice
would be
upgrade.
interesting.
You know, it's a lighter car. It's a smaller car. Yeah, maybe we'll get an increase in
I was actually
performance.
looking at those, Pete, because you know how I've been wanting a Model Y?
Yeah.
I actually looked up the Model 3 performance without like a ludicrous or anything is 3 seconds, 0 to 60. It's already incredibly fast. The performance Model Y, I think, is 3.6 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Ramon Hurt, a couple of comments here. He says, work ethics are the biggest difference between the Tesla factories.
Yeah.
He says, once I heard that Tesla was making a factory in China, I told my coworkers that I'd rather have a car from there, not Fremont.
It's amazing. This is a guy that worked for Tesla.
That's right. And he goes on to say, hungry people tend to work harder, and they're more grateful to have a good job with a good company.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Our manufacturing group. I talk about that all the time. When we were hiring DeVry students and high-tech institute students, they had a short-timer's attitude. They knew they weren't going to be doing assembly work in our production group the rest of their lives. Didn't have their heart in it, weren't interested in impressing their employers.
Yeah.
And once we shifted to the Asian workforce, everything changed.
Well, it's part of the respect that I know I personally have for people who immigrate to the United States to take advantage of the unique opportunities that we can provide that they can't get where they're coming from in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The chance for somebody who has a good work ethic to exercise that good work ethic and actually get results for it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that in people.
Thank you for broadening that, by the way. I'm an immigrant myself, by the way. And the U.S. enjoys an enviable position in lifestyle and all of the benefits that we have living in a country with this much freedom and this much opportunity. The other parts of the world aren't like that.
Right.
And when people come from those other parts of the world and see this, oftentimes they catch on fairly quickly. This is the land of opportunity, and they want to take advantage of it and make something of themselves.
Yeah, I've definitely learned how to appreciate what the type of opportunity that they have, and realize that what we have here in the United States actually is pretty unique. It's just too bad that many of us who have been born and raised and have been here in the U.S. for generations have forgotten that.
Yeah. So maybe it's time for us to shift to the Tesla Roadster portion of our EV podcast. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Sure.
Definitely.
You want us to send out the posts right now?
Yeah, if you would, let's send out the posts. And again, for those of you that joined a bit later, we're combining both Roadster and EV. Eventually, they may blend as we get some of the Roadster owners chiming in. They weren't prepared.
Real quick, Pete, we're going to send out the post on the different groups. Can you just wrap up the last few EV questions, and then we'll dive into that?
Totally. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Instagram, FNE Mobile says, thanks for the information, and then thumbs up.
Mm-hmm. And then Niels is chiming in. He says, well, Chinese products are lower quality, but if workers are paid more than elsewhere, then they get the best. Just as when Ford doubled the wage in 1915, they were lining up all the way to California.
That's definitely true. You see that in your labor force. When people get paid above what the perceived market is, you tend to get the best of those people.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm keeping an eye on here, by the way, this is Roadster related as well, is that Bring a Trailer auction, where we have a 2008 Tesla Roadster with a replacement battery pack, and it's got 2.5 hours to go. And I have some very definite ideas where this should sell, and I'll give you all of the reasons for that here in a moment. And it looks like we're shifting over to the Roadster group. Again, both of the EV podcasts, weekly podcasts now, are going to combine Roadster and EV. Eventually, we feel that the Roadster owners that are used to coming here on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. will be joining us Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., along with the rest of the EV-related audience. Today, we did not announce it, so we're going to switch over now. And
yeah. So Pete, we put it in the Tesla Roadster owners group. That's the main one. Any other particular groups? Just all the Facebook groups?
We have a page that's called Tesla Roadster.
Yep, it's in that one. Yep.
Okay. Then of course the Gruber site.
And then we put it on Twitter as well. So we're getting it out there, I think.
Okay. Perfect.
And maybe now's a good time, Jesse, to switch to our other background.
Oh yeah, let me switch it over.
I love that other background that we have. And while we're waiting for that, by the way, I still watch VinFast every so often.
Yeah.
They're at $4.80 today.
Oh wow.
So they
a little higher than Lucid though.
A little bit higher than Lucid. Lucid is currently running at $4.30. As of right now, they're down about 1% for the day.
Yeah.
But Lucid got a pretty good bump earlier in the day today, when people were impressed with the sales efforts that they want to try.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens with Lucid as the day goes forward.
It just seems like a massively undervalued stock to me. Based on the funding, the source of funding, the quality of the vehicles. I saw another one this morning. The Lucid, their new performance version, beat the Tesla Model Plaid.
Oh yeah.
And with headlines like that, not that anybody that buys a 4-door grocery getter sedan needs to go 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
But why not?
But why? Okay, good point.
It's and I'm really anxious to see what happens when the Lucid Gravity is announced formally. That's supposed to be coming up now in about 2 weeks or so. I'm not gonna say out here what I'll be doing with stock, but I have a feeling I'll be changing my position at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Background's updated.
Perfect. Thank you. So one final question here. YouTube, Tyrone Lewis, thank you for joining us, by the way. He says, perfect example of pride in your work is shown in the Berlin and China plants. Look at the quality of the products. A couple of opinions I have there. The German manufacturing force is definitely raises the bar in terms of quality. I mean, Germans are known for over-engineering and obsession toward quality. And the other thing that I find interesting is it's very difficult for companies that grow as rapidly as Tesla to develop the culture, the right culture, because you have so many people coming in from so many different places, bringing their own religions and their own beliefs and their own culture. It takes a while to settle into something. So the fact that Tesla's been able to be successful despite this rapid growth is really commendable. And finally, worker pride and quality has everything to do with the people that are managing them. The kind of are they communicating the mission correctly? Are they working on the culture? Are they recognizing their successes? And this is part of the problem I have with the union mentality. You've seen union workers on the side of the road. There'd be 6 of them standing watching one guy with a shovel digging because it's not their job to grab that shovel and dig, right?
Right.
This is contrary to all forms of efficiency in manufacturing. When you have a properly run organization, you have people pitching in. You have teamwork. We see that at Gruber Motor Company. This morning, one of our head mechanics had a mop, and he was mopping the floor. Not because that's his job, but because he felt compelled to do so. He made the mess. He didn't want the janitor to do that. He took care of it, you know?
Yeah, I think, to contrast that, I remember in the 1980s, I'm in high school, my father's working for the local telephone company installing this optical fiber. They were plowing in fiber optics. And he was a backhoe operator. He'd come back to the shop about 4:30. The shift ended at 5. And he went to go do some stuff to keep busy, but it wasn't operating a backhoe. So the union came down on him and told him 2 things. They said, number one, you're a backhoe operator. You're not to do mechanic stuff. You're not to be cleaning up. That's not your job.
Right.
The other thing that had them all kinds of upset is that he would stay until 10 after 5.
Yeah, right.
Because he wouldn't leave until what he was doing was done.
Right.
And that caused all kinds of consternation with the union folks. Needless to say, he did not stay at that job very long because he's like, I can't work in this environment.
Yeah. So again, my comment is these kinds of environments and cultures have a lot to do with management as well, and the employees, of course,
Yes.
responding to that. Good recruiting, hiring people well, all of that plays into it. YouTube, Ramon Hertz says pay scale is all relative. Good point.
Yes, it is.
Lightning rod, LOL, but why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nolver53 was hearing us talk about VinFast. He says, I want VinFast to succeed, but those vehicles have serious issues. Hopefully, if they ever build that plant in North Carolina, the U.S.-built vehicles will be better. Nolver, I totally agree with you. I've seen reviews on the VinFast models, and their issues are the very basic ones. The vehicles don't drive very well. They're poor build quality. They don't have that look or feel of reliability yet.
YouTube Lightning Rod says unions are the single greatest source of stratification in society today. Couldn't agree with you more. Tyrone Lewis with YouTube, thank you for your Gruber Motors. I own a USA Model S.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Ramon Hertz says, sounds like you're having a great group of people working there at Gruber Motors. It's been 40 years evolving, and yes, we take good care of our employees, so the union has no home here.
Yes. FNE Mobile on Instagram says, will there be a smaller, cheaper Tesla model in the future to supply more people with electric cars? My personal thought is yes, absolutely. There's been a lot of rumor about something that maybe a Model 2 type car,
Right.
Similar to a Model 3, but possibly a 2-door hatchback that's a little smaller and cheaper. I'm hoping it happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been Elon's goal all along, is to get a sub $25,000 car, because at that point in time, EV adoption will explode, considering that most people may not be focused on planet-saving initiatives. But if you affect their pocketbook and give them a less expensive car that achieves the same goal with lower maintenance, you suddenly are going to attract a lot more people into the EV space.
You know, my son and his wife recently bought a Model S. They bought an older used Model S that had free supercharging. And for them, it was not an EV decision. It was a financial decision.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we are going to save somewhere between $400 and $600 on fuel per month. And that more than covers the potential expense of having a car payment, and they figured out and ended up paying for it in cash. They didn't buy it because it was an EV. They bought it because of a good financial decision. They got a reasonably priced car that saves them hundreds of dollars a month in fuel. And yes, it does happen to really help the environment as well.
Mm-hmm. Instagram, Ashir bin Unsman says, I got an interview at Tesla service technician. Wonderful. We've been recommending to people, if you want to get into the EV space, go work for one of these OEMs. It will be on-the-job training, much better than what you would get at this point in a formal training situation, which there are very few courses available to you.
Good luck in your interview. I hope that you're able to get the job. Please let us know.
Guys, can you bring up a picture from Bring a Trailer and type in Tesla Roadster? There's a Roadster that is bidding right now that has 2 hours and 12 minutes to go. It is a 2008 R80 pack Tesla Roadster in electric blue. Looks like a pretty decent car, at least from the pictures that we saw here. But I saw this car sitting there at around $70,000, $80,000 for the last few days. And I thought to myself, this car is being sold, or currently the valuation is about $60,000. And the reason I say that is, last month, they put a $30,000 battery pack into this car. Well, that should affect the value of this car, you would think. So at $90,000 current bid, this is actually selling for $60,000, which is well below what a functioning, running Roadster should be selling for. So what I'm going to try to do here is bolster some of these Bring a Trailer prices, which really have been very low recently, except for one, where you had two rich guys bidding on the same car, and it went to $220,000. Well, we don't have two rich guys bidding on this car. It's sitting there like an orphan, sitting there at $90,000 currently, and this car should sell for at least $110,000 to $120,000 because, like I said, somebody just pumped 30 grand into this car, which gives you a replacement battery pack good for the next 20 years.
Well, and considering that the battery pack prices are now 40 grand plus installation and tax.
Good point.
I would think that, 45,000 is depending on where you're buying your battery pack from, is a more reasonable number to add to the value of this car.
I fully agree. In the Roadster portion of this, here we go. We got a Roadster question. Ramon Hurt. Thank you. We're switching over to Roadster. Did AI invent the blue color for that Roadster? It almost looks like it could have, but this was one of the early colors called electric blue, and they really have three blues in the Roadster lineup. You have your glacier blue, which is sort of a light, very light, almost a silver bluish type color. Then you have your twilight blue, which is very dark blue, also
Yes.
metallic. And then you have this electric blue. So if you like vibrant colors, this is really the Roadster that you want to, in the blues at least, that you want to go with.
Well, I think he was talking about this.
And our
our
background picture, that looks almost like a turquoise blue,
Yeah.
which I do think is AI generated. I love that blue color.
One of the reasons I like picking AI to do our Roadsters is because it comes up with out-of-the-box colors and concepts. Sometimes you'll see design features on these cars that somebody may just decide, I like that. I'm going to get a custom wheel like that. Or I'm going to put a gas cap door here. No, I'm only kidding about that. Or a door handle, right? But it does mess up at times. The colors are usually unusual, though, and you're beginning to see people that are beginning to customize and bling their Roadsters with some really cool colors.
Ramon did confirm that he was talking about the Roadster background.
Oh, it is this electric blue. Okay, well, it could have gone either way then. Sure. So one of the things that I found on a Facebook site was a question. Somebody is trying or might sell Founders Tesla Model S number 24. And the suspicion was there were only 25 built. So what would you think it's worth? Is $40,000 to $50,000 a good price for this? Because it is a Founders series. Well, let's back up a moment. There were evaluation prototypes. There were VPs, valuation prototypes, or engineering prototypes, sorry. Engineering, valuation prototypes, and then Founders Series, and then came the Signature Series cars.
Right.
So something that has a Founders status is definitely should be a sought-after vehicle, because these were reserved for VIPs. You know, the top list of the venture capitalists, for example, that were funding a company, those might get a Founder Series car. Somebody or one of the people within Tesla, early people within Tesla, would get Founders. In the Roadster world, Elon has Founders Roadster number 1. Martin Eberhard has Founders number 2. And one of our customers actually has Founders number 3, but he was also influential back in the day. So the question, though, is anyone collecting Model S's yet? Well, the simple answer to that is no. And the reason we know that is we've got one customer actually has signature number 9, I think it is. Ray, you'll probably know exactly what this is. I may have this wrong, but he just bought this car collision damaged. It's going to be repaired, but it's a Signature Series.
Okay.
Very low VIN. We have Signature Model S number 69.
Right.
Also low VIN. So then we have Founders Model S number 3 in our shop currently that is for sale. And we're having a hard time selling it, getting bids for that car. So the simple answer is no. At this point, collectors have not caught on to the fact that, A, Tesla is going to be around, just like Lamborghini has been. That's why the Miura now is fetching $1.7 million, and it's a butt-ugly car.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the later versions. Yes, at some point in time, the Model S's are going to go collectible, and obviously when that happens, it's going to be the pedigreed cars. There are no EPs out there I'm aware of, or validation prototype Model S's, because by then I think they were able to scrap those.
Right.
But the Founder Series definitely are out there, and the Signature Series. Question from Ramon. Pete, was I sad when Elon sent a Roadster into space? Actually, I wasn't, Ramon. And the reason is I knew that for generations now, people would be talking about the Tesla Roadster in space, you know, wherever it will end up in the future. And again, hats off to Elon. I thought that was one of the most brilliant marketing ploys possibly in this century. If you think about it, Tesla needed ballast in order to prove that their rockets could launch and go into outer space. Well, they could have used cinder blocks and anvils, but instead Elon says, you know what, I've got 2 Roadsters. I really don't drive them much. Founders number 1 is probably an important keepsake, but this VIN 587 is not.
Right.
So they strapped that to the top of the rocket, and people are still talking about it. It was brilliant. And I think it's done a lot to promote the Tesla Roadsters on this planet.
Well, the Tesla Roadsters and SpaceX and Tesla as a brand, you never get old. It never gets old. Oh, Tesla, that's the company that launched that car into space, right?
Right.
And then you're like, oh yeah, that is the one. That is the one.
Do you know what I think is the second Tesla Roadster visibility generator? Was the 3 barn find Roadsters in China. I wasn't expecting that 28 magazines would pick up that article all around the globe And we still have people. I mean, a truck driver, the other day showed up here and he said, "Are you the guys with those 3 orphan barn find roadsters?" Because he recognized the name
Right.
Gruber,
Right.
But yeah, I think that was the second boost for roadsters. And of course, the Tesla Roadster, even before the Chinese roadsters were found, were beginning to go collectible, and it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Usually in the world of cars, it takes decades for a car to become collectible because so many are built and it's not unique enough. But in the EV world, things are moving so rapidly. The Tesla Roadster really is the first EV that started the EV revolution.
And I think you've hit on something there. With the Model S's, that's one of the reasons that I think they're not collectible yet. The Model S is still being made. There are a few 100,000 of them out in the world now. Give it another 20 years or so. Let it age the way that the Ford Mustang has aged, or that the old Dodge Challenger or Dodge Chargers have aged. And you'll find that the Model S becomes collectible in the same way that those older cars have become collectible.
And let's let scarcity take over. A lot of these are going to be scrapped eventually anyway, which will reduce the herd or reduce the count.
Yeah.
Good point. So that's our take on this. Is the Model S at this point collectible? No. Does that mean that you should ignore it? No, I don't think so. By the way, Ray did chime up. And yeah, they recently got Founders number 9, which is most likely a very collectible car as well. YouTube, Ramon Hurt says, maybe when AI finds aliens, they will be driving the Roadster. Quite possibly.
Very
yes.
possible.
All right, guys, I got some pictures for you to throw up. If you could throw up or go into a folder called Marco folder. And the images are listed numerically. Let's go with image number 1. A brief bio here. Marco Nolte lives in the northern part of Germany. He is very knowledgeable regarding electric vehicles. He helped us early on with our flood-damaged Tesla Model S's. And he's just brilliant when it comes to Linux and hacking and coding and all of the things related to the type of skills you would need in order to develop an aftermarket Tesla Roadster battery pack. So watching him enter this space was, I was very optimistic about the outcome.
Right.
And here's what he says. He posted this on Facebook. Here's an update on that Roadster battery project we posted about 2 months ago. Great news. We've made significant progress, and the initial tests are incredibly promising. Now, remember, Tesla at this point is the only company that makes a Tesla Roadster replacement battery pack. The price has just gone from $30,000 to $40,000, and we've all been waiting in the aftermarket space for somebody else to step up and create a product because, A, we don't know if Tesla is going to continue to make this product forever. Right now, they're very generously doing so. But every time we looked at the numbers, the bill of materials, the amount of labor involved, the amount of capital equipment you need to purchase to build a battery pack like this, and then the cost of the cells, it just didn't make sense. We'd be underwater even at $30,000.
Right.
I'm not even sure at $40,000 this is a viable venture for anyone in aftermarket to jump into. Well, so what our German guy has done here, Marco, he has actually developed a product that doesn't use the 18650 cells. He's using a Porsche Taycan battery pack and putting a number of these into this case. And you'll see it here in a moment as we go through the pictures. But what he says is most of the alerts now have been resolved, and the car is driving great without any Tesla components in the battery. Well, I about fell off my chair when I heard this. He's actually got the car driving, he says.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is. He says, we still need to debug one error that's preventing the Roadster from charging, but it should be resolved within a few days. He says, you might notice the Roadster looks a bit seasoned. It's just shop patina. He's talking about the little dust on his car, I suppose. Can we go to picture number 2, by the way? There we go. And, you know, it looks like the battery case that he made out of aluminum looks almost identical to the version that was made for Tesla in Thailand many years ago. except painted flat black because they were a barbecue manufacturer. Marco left his mill finish aluminum, which I think looks a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third picture is the pack inside the car. And you can see in the back there that rear deck lid front portion is gone. And you can see the battery underneath there. So if he's actually developed a battery that will propel that Roadster, and it is ignoring all but one error code, he has made a remarkable progress.
Oh, absolutely. Because Marco a couple months ago was saying, hey, we've got the battery pack design put together. We think we know how to do it. We're going to use these Porsche Taycan modules, and that gets us 10% of the way there.
Yeah.
The other 90% is going to be figuring out and reverse engineering all the Linux code that goes into the Roadster that is, for all of the PIM and the battery the BMB boards and the BSM and all of that stuff. Like we're not sure when or if we're going to be able to do it. Now, 2 months later, he says, yeah, we can drive our Roadster. I can't charge it right now, but holy cow.
It'll be interesting to see now what the next step for him is, because he's going to have to now execute, go into production mode.
Right.
He has another full-time job, and questions that I'm going to ask him certainly are you going to quit your job now? Are you going to go into this full-time? And the most important part is going to be price point.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to hear more about how does he cool that battery?
Oh, all those questions, yes. And those are going to be important to the owners, too, because there's some safety issues that, go along with these batteries.
By all means.
So, Marco, we're proud of you. We're amazed, and our hat's off to you. That was an engineering marvel, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you about that battery pack.
On YouTube, Larry Silva is asking, what's the approximate labor-only cost for a Model 3, X, or Y battery replacement?
Just off the top of my head, to drop a battery pack out of a Model X, S, any of those, and to replace it, you're probably looking at a half a day worth of labor and then some programming time. I would say you're probably looking at $1,000 to $2,000 in that neighborhood just for the labor.
That makes sense. That's and I think that's pretty similar to the labor that would be on the Roadster battery replacements, where we've seen them come in from Tesla at about between $1,500 and $2,000.
YouTube, Ramon Hurt says, are those pouch-type cells in that pack? I wish I had done the research on the Taycan battery modules before this podcast, and I'd be able to answer that. I'm not really sure precisely what the battery topology in those modules is. Ramon looked it up. He says they are pouch. Okay, so they're pouch batteries.
Okay.
Nickel metal, is that what NM?
No, never mind.
Oh, never mind. Okay. I get those acronyms so messed up all the time. Like the earlier one,
yeah.
HA, what does that mean? He's saying ha,
Got to get more used to the internet shorthand feed.
That must be it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm always going to be an internet shorthand illiterate. I'm constantly having to look up stuff.
So we got some other pictures here, guys. And again, this is the Roadster portion. Let's go to Mel and Foster. And if we can go to image number 2 first. I wanted to show a picture that these guys posted of Virginia. And, I don't live in Four Seasons anymore, so we don't get to see this kind of color.
Oh, yeah.
But remember, in the Four Seasons, this is quite common in fall. And then, of course, it turns white before too long. But these guys, a couple of them, Roadster owners, and we can go to picture number 1 now, ended up driving through Shenandoah National Park, Skyline Drive. And it looks like a magnificent place to exercise your Roadster. Would love to hear from you guys. Usually Foster chimes in, but I don't think he's prepared for us doing this on a Tuesday, so he'll probably be looking for us tomorrow. But Foster, let us know how long you guys were up there. It was you and Mel C. They were both Roadster owners. And
if we get anybody joining tomorrow during the AI podcast, we'll let them know.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay. Have a picture here going back to the other section. You know what? I did not bring that over. Mark, if you want to take over, I'll bring over that picture and we'll post that here in a second.
Sure. There's We've learned recently that the Grand Canyon National Park has superchargers that are being installed. In this case, they're EV America, and they're high current chargers, the 150 or 350 kilowatt chargers. I went ahead and took some time to look up. I'm excited about it, and I thought that's really cool. But one of the articles that I read about that was that the Grand Canyon is simply the latest national park to have this to happen. They're not at all the first. And so I went ahead, took a little bit of time, looked up some information about National Park Service. I found out that you can go to the National Park Service and look up a map of where EV chargers are at. I found out that there are also 27 different parks, including places such as Yellowstone National Park, the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, Everglades over in Florida, Zion National Park in Utah, and Yosemite in California. These are all places that have EV charging stations. And most of these places have Tesla as well as either ChargePoint or Electrify America or Blink or one of the other major networks. I literally talked to my wife this weekend when I saw it, and I said, honey, we need to go to the Grand Canyon in our Volvo. Because, right now we just own electric vehicles. I would not take my 96 Chevy up there. That cost me $150 just in gas to get up there and back with that big old thing. And so we wanted to, and we're actually considering that, maybe a day trip up to the Grand Canyon and stop in Flagstaff, top off the charge after 140 miles, and then drive the extra 100 miles to the Grand Canyon. And while we're there in Grand Canyon Village, having something to eat and going up into the canyon itself and taking a look over the Bright Angel Trail, let the car charge up. It'll be a full charge, and then we could head home.
Sounds like fun. You bet. There's a folder, guys. If you can go into the blown caps section. And this is, again, Roadster related. We have always recommended that you have deferred maintenance in an electric vehicle, just like you do in an ICE vehicle, but it's not in the same parts. It's not the bearings and the rings and the pistons and, the mechanical portions. It is in the electronics. And here we have a power electronics module that's had the lid removed, and you can see the 3 phase boards, phase A, B, and C. And if you look at phase board 2, one of those capacitors has the lid popped off it. And there's a close-up in large caps -2. This capacitor had begun to bulge. It had not yet blown its top, which is a good thing, because when these filter capacitors blow their tops, they have metal foil inside that sprays throughout this electronics module. And as that conductive foil lands on circuit boards, it eventually ends up shorting parts, and you can be in a world of hurt if you've begun to destroy some of those boards, which are no longer in production. You're not going to be able to go to Tesla and buy any boards, or to AutoZone and get some boards, or anywhere on the planet to buy boards. So taking care of deferred maintenance in your Roadster is vital. And this is an example of a car that did not have a PEM rebuild yet. And this is what eventually happens. Now, fortunately, this one did not blow its top. We had one in Europe with a service partner that did. And they were very lucky because they were able to vacuum out all the debris and nothing had shorted inside. These are 400 volt, 40 microfarad filter capacitors that are used for wave shaping on those power boards. And large electrolytic capacitors like this have a shelf life of 8 years. And there's a picture showing all of the new caps that we're going to put into that power electronics module. In the critical power world, they get changed every 8 years like clockwork. And we're jumping ahead a bit here, guys. We're going to get to this one. So proactive maintenance on the electronics in a Roadster is vital to prevent any disasters from occurring. We actually, that same week, had another Mylar capacitor, and that's the final picture here, guys. Large caps number 5. This is a Mylar cap, not an electrolytic, and this one also blew. In fact, there's when it was on the circuit board, there was some metal fragments that were blown out the side. Again, a strong argument for taking care of your deferred maintenance, just like you would in your ICE vehicle. You don't drive your car repeatedly without getting an oil change. Well, not taking care of deferred maintenance in your EV is like driving and never getting an oil change. Eventually, you're going to
Yep.
seize bearings. You're going to score your piston walls and, blow your engine eventually.
This is these things right here.
Yeah, that's a Mylar cap on the upper portion there, and the red one down below by Mark is what it looks like before it blew up. All right.
Those blows are definitely spectacular. On YouTube, we have Wayne Levitt that says, I just purchased a beautiful red Model S 2016. Tesla said if I transfer ownership, I will lose its autopilot and connectivity. So I won't transfer. I can't use their chargers or get battery fuse replaced.
Interesting. Okay. So that $14,000 autopilot feature will not transfer to a new
Wow.
vehicle.
Well, will not transfer to new owner. The vehicle is what it is. But he's saying if he takes over on the Tesla app as a new owner, that he loses
On
autopilot.
the app. Okay, gotcha.
You know that
You know what, Wayne? I would do this. There is a lot of misinformation at times. It's all about interpretation at the service center level. Do a little bit more research because this sounds pretty one-sided and onerous. And report back, by the way, in our next podcast and let us know what you found out or if you've corroborated what you're claiming.
Might even try a different service center, right? Because as we know,
Yeah.
certain service centers are prepped for roadster stuff and certain aren't. So it could be different at different centers.
well, we've seen different people at different roads, different service centers tell us different information when asked the same question too.
Yeah. And it's about interpretation, It would be nice if Tesla had a primary email or place you could call where questions like this could be posed. And that's usually what a PR department would do.
Yeah.
Live chat, that type of thing. There's a suggestion for you, Tesla. We're small and we have live chat here. And it's one of our most successful ways of communicating with our customers.
Yes, it is. On YouTube, Ramon Hurt talking about the Chargers in the Grand Canyon. He says, I went to the Grand Canyon once and it was cool, but I'd rather hang out in Sedona.
You and me both, yeah.
You know, Ramon, my favorite place in the entire state of Arizona is a little park at the top of Oak Creek Canyon, just north of Sedona, about 15 miles. You look down into the canyon and you have a blend of fir trees and pine trees and warm weather as well as cool weather, just because of the way that particular part of the canyon is facing, and it's just so beautiful.
Mhm.
It really is. So you're not going to go wrong in either place.
Question from Ramon. How long do contactors in the Roadster packs usually last? We don't see in the ESS pack, we do not see contactors deteriorating there. Where we see that is in the power electronics module. And because we've got the thing torn apart, we've got it open, and contactors are not that expensive. As part of that refurbish and rebuild that we do, we change those contactors in that power electronic module, along with about 48 other components. It's just good business. While you've got it open, the car was shipped here. It costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get it here. You might as well get the whole thing done properly.
Yes. On Instagram, Alec Halililov gives us a wave.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I pronounced that one right. I had to spend a little time figuring that one out. And then on YouTube, Lato, Idaho is back. It says, hi guys, I was in Phoenix yesterday delivering 3 boats on University. And Lato, I have a question for you on that. Considering how many lakes you probably did not see in Arizona, do you really wonder why people would ever own boats here?
Good point. I read one time many years ago that the per capita boat ownership in the state of Arizona was one of the highest in the country.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. I
It
mean, we
doesn't
have
make
some
sense.
lakes up north, but yeah, it's probably people want to get out of the desert and get to some water.
I'm thinking so.
By the way, next time you're here, Lido, stop by, take a tour of our service center. We're not too far from Deer Valley Air Park. You were probably at the university as probably ASU.
Yeah, down toward the Tempe area.
Mm-hmm.
Niels is with us again on YouTube. He says, wouldn't it be easy to train AI on all Tesla info and give easy answers to all of these questions?
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yep.
There's a challenge for Tesla.
So Alito answers my question to him. He says, I have no clue. He also asks, can infrared be used to view the battery pack to identify temperature differences in a bad cell?
We have tried that, Lito, and on the surface, it seems to make sense because the resistive cell should be warmer than the rest of the cells around it. What we find is that there was so much bleed that it was not conclusive. And what you don't want to do is cut the wrong cells.
Right.
Because you only get one out of 6,831 typically that's bad. So that is not the procedure that we finally settled on. Although, it should be able to do something like that using infrared.
I think that, my own speculation, I'm not the one that looks in and does these things on the batteries, but you've got enough coolant going through that battery and enough temperature dissipation that's by design in the battery that it's going to make it really, really hard to be able to narrow in on one resistive cell that's a higher temperature.
There was a service organization in Europe years ago that proudly claimed that you can find your resistive cell by just pumping 25 amps into that brick. And then the fusible link wire that's affected with a resistive cell will glow cherry red. Of course,
oh man,
we were all waiting for any developing news on whether there was a fire at his building at any point in time after
cow.
that.
And the cell will take off like a Roman candle as well.
Way too risky. We got a couple of pictures here to pop up. The first one is the rectangular, almost like a cell phone picture. I didn't change the number on this one, guys. And what this was about was, if you remember, there was a Tesla calendar, and we actually promoted it last month, and I didn't see the end result of that, but they were soliciting images of your favorite Tesla, and they came to the Roadster community as well and said, send us your best Roadster pictures. So a lot of people participated and did. And here's a wag that came up with the result of that and said, the new Tesla calendar for 2024 already done. And one of the comments, though, put everything back in perspective. And that's the next picture here, guys. If we could bring that up, the next image. That one, yes.
There we go.
And I'll get out of the way here.
Yeah, what that reads is rank and fuel type, hybrid, gas, and electric. So fires per 100,000 sales, 3,474 for hybrid, 1,530 basically for gas, and 25 for electric.
And this is per year, by the way. This was, I think, 2022 was the statistic.
Yeah.
So that should put everything back in perspective. But, the media being what it is, it focuses on the bad news. And whenever you see an electric vehicle on fire, that is the one that makes the headlines. Those 4,000 or 5,000 other hybrid and gas vehicles catching on fire just don't make national news like an EV fire.
I'm thinking of those 199,000 total gas car fires. You might have 3 or 4 that hit the news. And of the 52 electric vehicle fires, you probably have 26.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, but I also noticed that says Auto Insurance EZ. It says this is an insurance company that produced this photo.
Ah, okay. Well, being in the risk management business, this would be a statistic that they should be focusing on.
I would think so too. They're the ones that are going to know. So thank you.
YouTube, Lido Idaho says, no clue, University Drive, a boat dealer. Okay, correct. I was at Complete Marine and in-have video on my channel.
And I have a video on my channel.
Okay. Of course, the crane taking off the boats. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
Well, yeah, like Pete said, I hope that you would be able to find the time if you're here in town again to come up to North Phoenix, and we'd love to give you a tour.
Well, folks, I think that's going to wrap up our EV broadcast today. And again, today is the first day that we're combining Roadster and EV. We're going to do an experiment here to see how it works out, how the participation works out. What it does is it gives us more time for the other podcasts that we do, and allows us to create more content and find more content. 2 EV podcasts per week were really a challenge for us at times.
Definitely was.
So tomorrow, for those of you tuning in expecting a Roadster podcast, it's going to be artificial intelligence. It'll be Jesse and I talking about the latest developments in AI. And then Friday will be the Power Services podcast. No more Sunday podcast. Jesse says it's the holidays. I'm done. I need to spend some family time, which I need to do too. I have a number of granddaughters that are looking for me Sundays typically.
I'm sure.
So again, the schedule is Monday, Communication Products Podcast, Tuesday, EV Podcast, Roadster Podcast, Wednesday, AI Podcast, Friday, Gruber Power Services. And we want to thank you all for joining us as always. We hope you are.
You bet. And take care. We will see you. I will see you this next week. Pete, you will see them tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you.